Yo, what's up, bitches? Welcome back to the Pasta House. It's your boy, Spaghettas. So fucking stupid. I promised I was gonna make a part 2, essentially, or at least a different edition for the people that use Index. So awesome. I got a little birdie in my ear right now, aka Discord. We're gonna get into it and make the Index version of the the fucking spaghettification for Resonite. I don't know what the fuck I'm saying right now, but it sounds so delicious. Moving on. Ooga booga. I'm just kidding. Spirit of the holidays, I guess. You know, this is October and shit. We're basically gonna have the exact same. Get the fuck out of here. We're basically gonna have the exact same setup as we did before. The only thing is that we are going to have a bigger compose, and then we are also going to have more inputs as well for each controller. Get active user self. Here I've pulled out the chirality node for the left hand. You can see that this is also leading down. I do have another setup for the right hand as well. Just know that pretty much it does the exact same thing as the other one does. So we want to be able to get the button A touch, B touch, as well as the trigger touch. So we will compose those into bytes, but we're going to do of type short. We go compose bits of type short, as we can see here, and this is just going to give us just enough so that, you know, it's not like a fucking book long for us to deal with. We're going to plug these in first. We're going to go button A touch, button B touch. We're also going to be doing it on the trigger and the trigger touch. So we can see here that this blue one right here is the trigger, right? What we want to do, this is a fuck. So what we want to do with this one is we actually want to get a greater or equal than node. So we're going to go into the node browser. We're going to go greater or equal. We plug in and say, if this grip is greater than some odd amount of force that we want to do. This is just for an extra input if you want. You don't have to have it, but this will be registered as an extra input if you want to do a different gesture separate from simply just touching the trigger. So we can plug this in as an input as well. And I'm just going to set this as 1. You know, you can set it at whatever threshold that you want. So the more that you press into the trigger, it will actually be able to register that as true or false. So you can set that to whatever your preference is. Doesn't have to be 1. I just put it as 1 as an example. So, and then you would also do the, oh my bad, it would be the trigger touch, not the grip touch, and then also the actual trigger touch as well. We want that as an input on its own. And there we go. That is pretty much all set up and ready to go at this point. You would just do it for the opposite controller that you're working on as well. So you would just follow this step by step and just have an extra input down here for your secondary controller. But we move on. We do index of first match, right, as we did before. With this index of first match, you will be able to see all the different values. So if I put this onto my tool shelf, you can see here that the inputs on my left hand are going through. So you can see all the different inputs from what I am actually putting my finger down for. And each one has its own numerical value. So if I wanted to, I could do each individual input that way. And you don't have to get too complex. If you don't want it to be too complex and separate them by finger rotations, you can skip ahead. But now we're going to be moving on to individual finger rotations if that is something that you want to do for your system. The way that we're going to make this work is by using user finger pose source as we did in the last one, except this time we are actually going to use this to get the finger rotational data for the finger pose systems. So all of it will be going into this. We want the user finger pose source. We want the finger pose. We also want the 2-axis angle as well. So we get the rotational data. So since we're using the value less than, all of this data will be transmitted through the active user self. So I'll just plug this in. We also, one more thing, we don't want to forget to use the compose finger node as well. This is what you're going to use as your body node input source. So we use a compose finger, we choose the finger, right? So in this context, it's going to be just these 4, right? So the index, middle, ring, and pinky. The segment that you want to choose is going to be the distal. So we get the first finger, which is going to be the index. All of these are going to be based on the distal. And then the chirality is just going to be based off of whatever the chirality is on your controller. So we would just plug that in back there. So as you can see there, it's right back here. Essentially, this is going to be your basic setup for each finger that you're going to have to do. There is a different way on doing this, but I am too lazy to do fucking rocket science, and I'm not gonna use a bunch of 4 nodes. You could probably ask Space to help you out on that, and I haven't gotten his permission to use his code, so we're gonna be doing it my way. Now, you would just plug this as a condition into the compose bits short, and you would do that for each and every single finger on each hand. So you would have to do this 3 more times on one hand and then 4 more times on the other, unfortunately. But this is the best way and the most efficient way for you to be able to separate and have full control over your gestures. Once you set that up, which, I mean, it takes a little bit of time, but you have each and every individual finger. You have the index, the middle, the ring, and the pinky. And then you will have them all separated through the compose finger, have their own rotational data as well. You can have it all set to whatever rotational information that you want as the less than. And then you will put them all into the compose bits. So if I were to take this and put it onto my tool shelf, we can see here that this display is kind of freaking out, right? It looks like there's really big numbers, and it looks a little intimidating. Don't be intimidated, just do the gesture that you want to do. Once you get the gesture down that you want to do, it will say, you know, in this example, 387. And I have that mapped as, you know, my first index. So once I do this gesture, again, it's based off of a base of 0. So it will do the first index. And then once it has found that match, it will go into the multiplexer that I have set up over here. This multiplexer is doing exactly the exact same thing that I showed in the last video. Again, if you haven't watched the last video, I don't know what the fuck you're doing here. You should probably go watch the last one just so that you can keep up. Have all your poses, and pretty much all of that is done. At this point, it's the exact same thing as you would have done in the video that I showed for the Quest users. The only difference is that you just have more inputs. So because you have all of these other inputs based off of the finger rotation data, and then you can do a gesture based off of, you know, like this versus this versus this, you know, like I just have 1 finger up, 2 fingers up, 3 fingers up, and so on and so forth. So it's virtually no different. It just has more inputs. Next, I think I'm going to do facial gestures that is also based off of this as well. So just make sure that you're watching these videos and that you're not like falling too far behind, so that you know what's going on. It's going to be the most efficient way for you to do all this anyway. So yeah, fucking peace.